So, I'm trying to complete every Call of Duty Zombies Easter egg for the first time in 2024, and to start it all off, I decided to begin with some of the more easier ones, and by that I mean Cold War Zombies. And please know that this wasn't easy to complete by any means, thanks to the first Outbreak Easter egg and a wonderful boss fight with a gigantic purple crystal looking guy, but after hard work and dedication, and some Mr. Rough Waffles guidance, we managed to complete them all. But enough talk, wanna see how it all went? Let's get straight into it. To start it all off, we began our long-ass journey at the Maschine, the launch map to Cold War, and one of the easiest Easter eggs ever made in COD Zombies history, if you ask me. So I started my game off, as I usually do, by stabbing a couple of 100 zombies, and by round 7, I felt richer than Jeff Bezos, so I began opening up the map and leaving the spawn. So I grabbed stamina up to last longer and jug to cure my depression, and I turned on the power. And after this, our next goal was to assemble the Pack-a-Punch, and to do this, all we gotta do is to teleport to the Dark Ether, use a teleporter, pick up the missing Pack-a-Punch piece, and place it back, and voila! You have yourself the best invention in COD Zombies history. And well, speaking of COD Zombies history, right after setting up the Pack-a-Punch, we did the coolest side Easter egg in COD Zombies history, the coffin dance. You know that deadass meme that trended like crazy a couple of years back? Well, by doing this, we get a big ass box that may contain some good loot for us, and my god did this box deliver. After getting a legendary gallo out of this big ass box, it was time to begin the Easter egg. And I guess this is a good time to tell you that I have completed all the Easter eggs on Cold War Zombies before, but I've never done any of them solo. But that's because I'm not just terrible at Call of Duty Zombies, but I used to prefer high rounds, but hey. It's 2024, things can change. So, the first step to this fine Easter egg is to assemble the Ether Scope, a device that lets us talk to ghosts. And to do this, I had to pick up 3 different parts around the map and build it. And boom, step 1 is already completed. Our next step was to teleport back into the Dark Ether and pick up a diary and give this diary to a bunch of ghosts. After listening to the ghosts talk about the good old times, I decided it was time to build the vacuum machine, or better known as a die. First, I had to pick up a key card from killing this Shrek-looking guy, place it in some Maschine or something to get a part. Then I trained the zombies until I had about 100 of them chasing me, and turned on the vacuum cleaner, and about 12 business seconds later it was ready. And by this point I was already halfway through completing the Easter egg, and that right there speaks for itself. It was now time to create the 4 elemental upgrades to this thing, and after running around collecting parts and shooting shit, we had them all ready. It was time to head back to the Dark Ether again, but this time we got to speak to some new ghosts, and these guys dropped a nice looking wrench to pick up. Our next goal was to use this wrench to fix the tank in the spawn area, shoot a zombie that lives inside of this tank, then throw a grenade on top of it so it makes the tank bust, and by doing this we made the tank hit a tree. So I headed to the tree and found a golden snitch from Harry Potter, just a lot bigger and heavier. So I took my slow walking ass back to the speed cola room and placed a huge golden ball, and now it was time to do our last step. First, we splitted Shrek into 2 smaller but meaner versions of him and sucked them up, and about 13 business seconds later, Orlov, our best friend in the whole world, was born. Our final goal before the boss fight was to listen to Orlov's ghost talk about some shit from his past, and then pick up Orlov's family photo, and by doing this we entered the boss fight. I gave Orlov his family photo, and he begins remembering his family and turns into an Italian grandmother on steroids when her grandson hasn't eaten up her fresh homemade pasta. Then he proceeds to tear the place apart, and after some time we can finally leave by running out of the bunker. But then the most terrifying part of this Easter egg begins. Lightning strikes suddenly appear all around us, and we must move carefully not to get hit by any of them. And my heart was beating like crazy, but with a fire in my eyes for a successful escape, we managed to get into the exfil shopper safely, and by that we had completed our first Easter egg of the video.
Good work, strike team. We've closed the breach. But I got a feeling Omega Group is just getting started.
Firebase Z launched on February the 4th in 2021 as a part of the Season 1 Reloaded update for Cold War Zombies. With such a simple and easy map to begin with, would this new addition take Cold War down a new path and make huge impact on the COD Zombies franchise as we know it? No! Firebase Z is my least favorite map on Cold War Zombies, and the Easter egg isn't anything special either. It has the worst Easter egg step ever created in a video game, after my opinion, and didn't really add anything to the game, but we still had a complete Easter egg. But anyways, let's hop into our second adventure of this video. I spawn in and begin knifing zombies until around 4 to save up some cash and hop into the teleporter to get to the main part of the map so I can start doing my trials, because there's no chance I would ever try to build the Reiki from scratch. 4 rounds later, we finally got our trials up to legendary, and our luck couldn't have been any better since we got the Reiki on our first try. So with the Reiki out of the way, I proceeded to turn on all the power reactors, which works as the power system on this map, and we were now ready to begin the Easter egg. Like that, just already. Our first mission was to head down to spawn, talk to Ravenov, the guy who stands behind the bulletproof glass and just stares at you the whole game. After some time, he finally gives me a key card, which gives us access to a bunch of different cabinets around the map, and in these cabinets, there's a special type of juice or something that we have to collect. So, after collecting all the 3 different juice bottles, we could now mix ourselves a nice cocktail, but we aren't the ones getting drunk, because our good old friend, Dr. Peck, is feeling a little bit thirsty. After drinking, giving the drink to Dr. Peck, he gets drunk, as we expected, and begin dancing around his room like I do every Friday night to cure my loneliness. And now, with Dr. Peck drunker than your uncle on a barbecue party at your neighbor's backyard, we could finally get him to talk, so he will give us the intel we needed. And let's just say, the intel he gave us isn't what anyone would have ever wanted to hear, because in other words, he told us to do the mimic step. So, to do this, we must collect an essence trap that works as a vacuum cleaner. I know it sounds weird, but just hear me out. And then we find a mimic that is disguised as an object, like a kill streak or something similar like that. Then we must get this mimic to low health to then use the essence trap to suck the mimic into it and place it back to the essence trap spawn to collect the mimic's memories. Just think about it like catching a Pokemon. So if it's done correctly and we found our right mimic, we will get a name corresponding to one of these names: Sokolov, Brahms, and Sabine. And by round 12, we finally found our first mimic and trapped our bastard into our little Pokeball, placed it into the machine, and got our first memory. 2 rounds later, we found our second mimic and got our second memory, and on round 15, we found our last mimic and completed the step. So, it went better than expected, but that doesn't change the fact that this step can be a bloody mess, so I guess our luck wasn't going away anytime soon. With all the memories in place, we got ourselves access to a floppy disk that we could place into a computer to gain access to the gigantic ball, or better known as the OPC. Inside of it, we found a strange looking teleporter, but nothing was happening, so we headed down to Peck for some friendly advice, and he told us that we had to gather more Ethereum to stabilize the portal. And to do this, we were going to need a couple of different parts. And Dr. Peck, being our good old friend, gave us the code onto his school locker. And inside, we got the part we needed to proceed, the ether meter. And just imagine a metal detector, just instead of it reacting to metal, it reacts to whenever you come close to Ethereum. And that is exactly what the ether meter does, I think. Well, after grabbing the ether meter, we headed to a hut where we got the last part we needed for our Ethereum hunt. Our mission was simple: gather 3 different I can't say that word. 3 different Ethereum canisters around the map and place them in the 3 different power generators. But my dumbass decided to add a catch to the whole situation, because I decided to save the last zombie. Because who don't want to save the last zombie? You know, while gathering the canisters, so I wouldn't end the round. But unfortunately for me, the last zombie, of course, had to be a mangler. So, we found our first canister by playing a game of hide and seek. And I found the canister's location with my ether meter, but the canister just vanished, and a million other canisters spawned in. So, my goal was to pick up the ether canister that doesn't have any black smoke inside of it. And after a short time of looking around, we found the right canister, and our mangler that we saved is still alive. Our second canister, on the other hand, wasn't going to be as easy as our first one. After binge watching Shut the fuck up. After watching Mr. Rough Waffles for hours, I found the location of the canister and dug it up, but here is the catch. As soon as we found the canister, it began a lockdown sequence where we had to survive against a wave of manglers and dogs. This wouldn't usually be a problem, right? But don't forget that we have a mangler as our last zombie that we can't kill. But we still managed to complete the step and get our canisters. And the mangler was still alive, so I found the last one by the barracks area. And apparently the canisters seem to be afraid of my presence, as a lot of people seem to be these days, especially the kids in my basement. But so to catch the canister, I used my Beyblade effect on my Ray K to blind the canister so we wouldn't get scared when I tried to kidnap him, and boom, we had all the 3 canisters, just like that. And after placing each canister at the 3 different power generators, we can now head back to the planning offices where we put the floppy disk in and access a new computer. So, after playing around with it and watching even more Mr. Off Waffles, I found out what to do, and with everything in place, we could now launch a literal fucking space laser at the satellite dish, and by doing this, we opened the teleporter so Sam could get through the teleporter.
You are Requiem.
Next up, boss fight. The first thing I did was to pack-a-punch my Rake 8 to tier 2 so I could obliterate the Orda faster than I fell in love with Madeline Lane the first time I saw Outbreak. Damn! Next, I headed to the highest point to gain the high ground and began raining down hell on the Orda. And after seconds of fighting, Orda had seen his last days. No! And Firebase Z completed. My favorite Cold War Zombies map with a great Easter egg and boss fight. Marauder Toten is the 3rd round-based map in Cold War and was the perfect addition to Cold War Zombies at the time. So, we spawned in at the roof of a building in the heart of Berlin, and I start doing what I always do whenever I begin a match in Cold War Zombies, stabbing zombies until I feel as rich as Elon Musk. I end the round and leave the spawn on the beginning of round 8. I ran over to the jug area to kill our first Tempest to get our first fuse to turn on power. Then we headed down into the train station and found our second Tempest and got our second fuse and turned on the power. Heading up to the Pack-a-Punch area, we kill the Disciple and boom, we have both power and Pack-a-Punch just like that. I decided to begin the Easter egg by building Klaus, potentially the best AI companion to have by your side in COD Zombies, but potentially and not definitely? Well, Klaus had to prove himself first. So, I turned a zombie into my slave, my ally, and made him break down the door just like Santa Claus breaks into houses at Christmas night without permission. And right there hanging around a dead zombie's neck, Klaus's beautiful hands. I picked up his hands, grabbed stamina up and armor on my way back to Pack-a-Punch and started digging for our next part, a satellite dish. I found it after digging like a coal miner in the 60s and picked it up and grabbed the jug. On round 10, we finally got the Panzer Mangler hybrid, aka the Krasny soldat, at the spawn, and by killing him, we got the last part we need to assemble Klaus. So, I placed a AA batteries in his head and Klaus was now ready to assist us. I ordered Klaus to open a locker where we got a black flashlight and then made him break a wall with a single punch. And after this, it was time to assemble the Wonder Weapon. To get a Wonder Weapon, aka the Cerberus, we must use our black flashlight on 3 different spots around the map to gather 3 different numbers. And with these numbers, we could open a safe located inside the room that we broke into earlier, where we got Klaus's hands. Then, after putting in the code, the safe opened, and then we finally had one of the best wonder weapons in COD Zombies history. After killing some zombies, one of them dropped the laser beam variant of the Cerberus. And after picking it up, we could melt down the metal barrier down in the train station where Klaus broke the brick wall. And by doing this, we opened a new section of the map. After defending myself from Valentina's red self-exploding minions, 3 different empty canisters popped up and our next goal was to fill these 3 canisters with Tempest souls. I grabbed all of the canisters and grabbed the essence trap and ran out of Valentina's basement to fill these canisters full. But first, we had to do a quick YouTube search on where to find different locations for the canister holders that we had to place the canisters in, and thank God that Mr. Waffle exists. I'm just gonna say it, if Mr. Waffles didn't exist, I would probably never do a single Call of Duty Zombies Easter egg because I'm sorry Lex, I'm sorry Noah, I'm sorry everybody else, I'm sorry Mr. Dalek JD, I could never, ever watch anyone else teach me how to complete a Easter egg than Mr. Waffles, because he's the goat. So after listening to Milo address all the different potential spawn locations, we were ready to complete our mission. Our first canister holder was in the penthouse on the roof, just next to spawn. So I threw down my essence trap, killed all the Tempests that spawned in, and grabbed the canister, ran down to Valentina's crib and placed it into the machine. I repeated the process 2 more times, and then the step was completed. It was time to turn Klaus into the beast he was always meant to be by upgrading his system to the latest iOS update. So by shooting a bunch of different objects around the map with the Cerberus and collecting 3 parts, we could now make Klaus into our own personal John Wick Walmart edition. I spawned in Klaus with a feeling of excitement and energy, and he walked into the upgrade station as soon as he felt ready. Then a countdown began, and a lockdown had begun. What felt like thousands of zombies spawning in quickly became a nightmare as they tried to beat up my homeboy while he was chilling in the upgrade machine. Zombies surrounded us both, and his health was falling quicker than I could ever imagine, but with a strong discipline and a huge confidence boost after completing both the Maschine and Firebase Z flawlessly, we managed to survive just barely. And our mission was completed, and Klaus was ready to fuck shit up. After Klaus's upgrade, he had gathered the aim of John Wick and the muscle of Ronnie Coleman, and was ready to stop that fucking train. So, after switching up the lanes, Klaus confidently walked up to the train tracks, struck his arms out like the legend he is, and stopped the train. This gave me the chance to run into it and grab the parts we needed, and my god, was this an epic sight to witness. I will bet my entire life savings of $3 that Klaus will be the only thing in the universe that could stop the train in GTA 5. We placed the warhead that we picked up from the train at Valentina's crib and headed out to do our last step of the Easter egg. By browsing Valentina's search history, a bunch of bosses ascended from the sky to take us down so we wouldn't share Valentina's search history, but what they didn't know was that I wasn't going to go down so easily. So, after melting down every single boss in my way, I picked up a uranium rock and cleansed that shit at the workbench and placed it on top of the zip line at the penthouse. Repeated the exact same process and placed the second uranium on the zip line by Speed Cola. And then both rocks went crashing down into each other, and boom! We had our final part to begin the boss fight, the cleansed uranium. I geared up, placed the uranium into the warhead down in Valentina's crib, and it was time to defeat her once for all. So my strategy was simple, but also effective. I popped my ring of fire and began raining the hell down on her like crazy, and seconds later she teleported to the next location. I ran over to the next one and again tried to spam her like crazy to get her health down. And when I saw the opportunity, I climbed onto a truck in front of me, took out my secret weapon from my arsenal, and rained hell down on her. After she teleported again, I took the chance to grab myself a new armor and a new death machine, popped both the ring of fire and the death machine at the same time, and seconds later she was already teleporting. I replenished my armor and got ready for round 4, but this time I didn't have my ring of fire ready, and let's just say Valentina really put up a fight. I almost died like multiple times and found myself hiding every few seconds, so she didn't barbecue me like a fried chicken. But eventually I got her ass and she teleported back to her crib. I ran down to Valentina's crib again, popped my death machine, popped my ring of fire, and finished her ugly ass off. Then we watched as Klaus walked like the champion he is into the exploding whatever you want to call it, and it was fucking epic. And then everything went white. Murder Toten completed. Number of deaths, 0. It was now time for our last traditional round-based zombies map in Cold War, which is also the last DLC map, Forsaken. And I love this map, and I think it's a great addition to Cold War, but I know a lot of people don't like it, and I can understand why. The Easter egg on this map is not so difficult to say the least, and I guess I could even learn my grandma how to play it, so... And she doesn't even know how to take a picture on her iPhone, so that right there says it all, so... But anyways, let's get right into it. So, I spawned in and did what I always do, gathered up a lot of money and left spawn on round 10. I grabbed Jug and Quick Arrive and began collecting the parts I needed to repair the teleporter. I repaired it, killed the abomination that spawns in, teleported to the observation tower and activated the Easter egg by pressing the red button in the observation tower. I have never built a crystal axe before, so I just decided to do trials until I got it, because who the fuck wants to build that shit? And after a couple of rounds, I got my reward up to legendary and got the crystal axe first try. So let's just say my luck so far have been crazy. To do this Easter egg, you must build a neutralizer and collect crystals to use it as fuel for it, and that's about it for the Easter egg. And then it's boss fight, and the boss fight is, well, we're gonna get to that part. I decided to collect both parts and crystals at the same time by not following a particular order. I decided to begin with the first part and got it from doing a lockdown type of mission where I had to survive a couple of minutes in the fuel process area of the map. Next, I headed to the rooftops at the main street to collect my first crystal. To get the crystal that I needed, I had to shoot 3 different flying orbs around a gigantic ether crystal. Then crush the gigantic crystal with my crystal axe, and then pick up another crystal that I must throw into an abomination's mouth, and then kill the abomination to get the crystal out of its system. And trust me, I know how this all sounds, but most of this Easter egg is either smashing, throwing, or picking up crystals. Fast forward, on round 18, I finally came across an abomination and forced him to eat the crystal like my mom forced me to eat that disgusting broccoli on my plate back in the day. I got my first crystal. Did the exact same process at spawn. I got my second crystal. And finally, at the end of round 20, I got my third and last crystal that I needed. The only thing that was remaining was to get the last 2 parts to build a neutralizer. To get the second part, I had to do a quick game of bullfighting with an abomination to make him slam into a wall to get the part. So, running around in a tight room with a deformed Margwa, we managed to get him to slam into the wall, and we got our second part. This may be a good time to tell you that I tried to do this step on round 12 while I was doing my trials, and I got my first down so far, but let's just pretend that never happened. To get our last part, we had to shock a zombie with dead wire in front of an arcade game to power it. And my god, did I fail this step so many times. To complete this, we must drive a RC-XD into a TV store, drive into the wall to enter the storage and blow up. It sounds easy, right? Yeah, maybe if you aren't like me. This step will take you about 10 seconds to complete, but I'm me, so I tried time after time and my money was running out fast because each try cost you 2,000 points. So my bank account was getting drained faster than the US economy back in 1929. I don't even want to know how much points I spent on this step, but just know that it was a lot. But after about 100 attempts and a fully drained bank account, we finally completed it and got our last part, a fucking TV. And my god, was I happy. I've never been so happy to get a TV in my whole life. I got a new TV for Christmas, but the TV I got from doing the Forsaken Easter egg made me happier. But we could finally enter the boss fight and conclude it. After activating the neutralizer, it spawned in a sort of bubble where we had to fuel it up while it was moving. And if we went outside of the bubble, we took damage. So basically the same as a storm from Fortnite, just with a fueling system. So after following the flying neutralizer for what felt like 3 hours, we finally arrived at the boss fight arena. I grabbed myself Mule Kick and Deadshot and entered the boss fight. The Forsaken boss fight is very similar to the Outbreak boss fight, but the main difference is that we have a gigantic laser cannon at our disposal, and the Forsaken's armor is weak as hell. So to kill the Forsaken, we must break his armor and then use one of the laser cannons after it's filled up with souls through maxes. After doing this a second time, we got ourselves a break by getting teleported into something, where we could see our beloved Cold War Zombies crew lying dead against the wall. This made Maxes mad as hell, and then we got teleported back to the boss fight and repeated the exact same process 2 more times, while the Forsaken tried to kill me with all kinds of different attacks. But after a short period of time, we got his ass, and there you have it. Outbreak was the first non-traditional COD Zombies experience to date and launched on February the 25th in 2021 as a part of the Season 2 content drop. It sparked a lot of debate in the community, and still does to this day. A lot of people seem to like this new Zombies experience, including myself actually, but it still didn't become a big hit amongst the big portion of the hardcore fan base. I don't know, you know what I'm talking about. Outbreak released without an Easter egg, but after a short period of time, the first Easter egg was added to the game mode, and my god, this Easter egg come with a boss fight I will never forget. Short time after the first Easter egg dropped, Treyarch decided to show their new game mode some more love by dropping another Easter egg, but this one was way easier than the first egg. So, of course, we're gonna start with the simplest one, the second Outbreak Easter egg. So I spawned in on Duga and ran over to the free perk side quest where you had to kill a bunch of bosses and got myself Mule Kick. Next up, I headed to the main objective, completed it, copped myself Quick Revive and Jug, and warped to the next location. I spawned in on Sanatorium, did the Golden Chest side quest, and ran over to the Black Chest side quest. That's a lot of chests. This side quest is unique, but a pain in the ass to complete. But I had to get myself geared up if I ever wanted to complete this Easter egg. So, 3 different purple orbs spawned in, and my job was to kill them all. As simple as that, but at the same time, as soon as I shot one of the orbs, they began flying around like crazy and spawned in a horde after horde of zombies to take me down. And did I mention that the orbs also take damage? Well, in other words, a nightmare to complete. But after about an hour of running around like a headless chicken, I finally got the first one down. To make the whole situation even better, I ran out of ammo and had to steal a truck to run over the zombies so they wouldn't run over me. And finally, a max ammo dropped. And what felt like 3 hours later, we finally got them all. And got ourselves tier 2 armor and a free pack-a-punch upgrade. So, if it was worth it, well, you tell me. Next, I did the free perk quest and got myself Deadshot and did the main objective, which was to eliminate a boss. I tried to drive by shoot him, but I quickly realized I was as bad at driving in Cold War zombies as I am in real life. So I decided just to end his suffering and warp to the next location. We can now finally begin the Easter egg. And our first step was to jump through a red teleporter that sends us high up in the sky, and then fly into 3 more teleporters. After flying through the last teleporter, a device fell from the sky, and this was the first part we needed for the Easter egg. I came across our good old friend the Orda as soon as I landed and decided to cap his ass as I did back in Firebase Z. Then I completed the main objective, made a phone call, grabbed myself a whole bunch of perks and teleported to our last location, Sanatorium again. I came across the Orda once more and decided to send him to his grave where he belonged because he won't stop spawning. After that, I located a crashed chopper where we came across a radio. My mission was to assemble a modified rover. And to do this, I would need a red orb and a mystery box bunny. I located the red orb and began shooting it towards the bridge where the rover was waiting. Next, I located the mystery box bunny on top of the main building on the map, picked it up and ran over to the rover and placed it inside. Why are we doing this? Well, I have no fucking clue, and I will bet that Treyarch themselves don't even know what they were doing when they decided to make this Easter egg, because what the actual fuck is going on? After following the rover like a helpless child that lost his mom at a shopping mall, we finally arrived at our destination. I headed to the top and found some of our friends lying dead against the wall and realized that the whole thing was a trap. Suddenly, a timer began and our good old friend the Orla decided to rise up from the ashes once again. And fucking, why can't she just fucking die? I did what any normal person would do. I screamed at the screen, slammed my controller to the ground and finished him off. Then I hopped into the exfil chopper and just like that, we had completed the second Outbreak Easter egg. And next up, our last and most difficult challenge. We begin our final adventure of the video on Ruka. I ran up to the crystal side quest, got myself surrounded and dropped dead. I spawned in on Duga and got ready for round 2. Did the dragon side quest and then the free perk side quest and got myself PhD. Completed the main objective, bought Jug and Stamina up, and warped to the next location. First thing I did was to complete the golden chest side quest and free perk side quest and got elemental pop. Then I proceeded to do the main objective and warp to the next location. And we could now finally begin the Easter egg, and our first step was to listen to a radio signal by turning 3 different radios on the same frequency. After doing this, we got a listening device that we would need. So I completed the main objective, got access to the beacon where we had to make a phone call to Maxis, and then we warped to our next location. We spawned in on Collateral and began looking for our next part, a film roll that is disguised as a monkey bomb statue. So after looking around, we found the right one, got the film roll and placed it into the slider projector, and after a short class of show and tell with Maxis, we could finally leave and get ready for the last section of the Easter egg. And then the whole screen froze and the game crashed. I assume it's safe to say this Easter egg is starting to annoy me, like, a lot. And if things couldn't get any worse, the game decided to make my life a living hell. The truck began to roll over and got stuck, so I couldn't do anything. And as soon as the timer ended, it was game over. Fast forward to round 3, I spawned in on the zoo and began locating the radio locations. After finding all 3 radios, I completed the main objective, headed to the beacon, and forgot to make the call. I fucking misclicked and ended up warping straight ahead instead and tried to locate the radios on the next map, but I couldn't find any of them, so I gave up and entered the game once again. After completing the main objective on round 4, it was now time to head to Ruka to complete this boss fight once for all. I upgraded my Gallo to Legendary, drove to the objective, headed down the elevator, and it was now time. I headed into the bunker, pressed the big red button, and then we met our good old friend Ravenov. It made me happy to see that he finally left this disgusting room for once, instead of hiding behind a bulletproof glass all the time. Ravenov told us to find the launch keys to the gigantic missile, and this was pretty straightforward. To get our first key, we had to head into the main hub and run over a bunch of chairs and shit to spawn in 500 mimics, to then take each single one of them down. After this, we had to kill the Big Daddy Mimic, better known as the Red Mimic, and steal our first key. To get our next key, we had to pick up an essence trap with a banana strapped onto it and kidnap a monkey. I located the monkey, threw the essence trap, and trapped him as soon as he tried to take my banana, picked the trap up, and got our second key. But to get our last key, we first had to open a canister to then gather 20 ether crystals to fill it up. So I filled up the canister, picked it up, ran over to the purple jellyfish to go inside of him. Inside of the jellyfish, I found my last key, I picked it up, and there you have it. Now it's the only thing left was to start the launch sequence. And to do this, we had to use the 3 different launch keys. And it was now time to finish off that purple ass big guy once for all. I ran up to the surface and the countdown had begun. I climbed onto a truck and began spamming the Legion with everything I had. But it just teleported away. A couple of seconds later, I saw the opportunity to take my shot, and I finally broke his armor and popped my ether shroud and got the first orb down. I kept running around and around, but he wouldn't give me a chance to get a shot at him. But then finally I saw my opportunity, took out my death machine, popped my ether shroud and broke his armor. I kept shooting at his orb and eventually I destroyed it. I felt confident that I will complete this boss fight first try because I still had over 5 minutes left on the timer to take out his last orb. And finally I saw my chance to complete this Easter egg. I ran over to the Legion, began shooting at him, but then he decided to teleport as soon as I shot him. And this is where fear begins to take hold. I accidentally ran out into the storm and took crazy amounts of damage, barely escaping with just 1 HP, but a zombie came too close to me and downed me. I got myself up again and only had Jug and PhD left. I tried multiple times to take the Legion out when I got the chance, but failed every time. But then I saw my opportunity. I ran over to the purple son of a bitch, popped my ether shroud and broke his armor. Then a mimic came and pulled my ass away from him, but I still tried with everything in my power to take his ass out. I kept shooting and shooting, but eventually the zombie catched up to me. Then I broke my controller. After failing and failing, I felt there was no hope left. It felt like I wasn't meant to complete this Easter egg. Like this was where I had to draw the border and accept my fate as a terrible COD Zombies player. But then, something inside of me began to speak. It was my inner Mr. Waffles calling, telling me to just try one more time. And that's exactly what I did. I turned on my Xbox, sent all my loved ones a message where I wrote, "This may be my last attempt, but if I fail this, I don't think I will ever recover. Remember that I always loved you, and all of you, and stay hard." It didn't sound that well, and I quickly realized that as soon as the messages started raining in, and as soon as I told them I was referring to a Call of Duty game. Let's just say some things shouldn't be said out loud. But anyways, let's hop into our final match to see if we could beat this game once for all. Fast forward to round 5. I'd managed to finally get back to the bunker and was only one step away from getting to the boss fight that had scarred me for life and haunted me these past few months. I started by collecting the red mimic key, and in the process I came across a Ray K to bring into the boss fight. And if you remember from the Firebase Z Easter Egg, the Ray K could really put in a lot of damage. So next I picked up the banana, trapped the monkey and stole the second key. And then I gathered all the crystals and got our third and last key. I started the launch sequence and upgraded my Ray K to Pack-a-Punch level 3 and got ready for our final shot. And I mean, if I fail this, I'm never touching this game ever again. This time I made sure to bring a couple of monkey bombs with me to even out the odds a bit. And as soon as I saw my chance, I cranked up a monkey bomb, broke the Legion's armor, took out my Ray K and spammed the hell out of the orb. What I quickly realized is that the Ray K is nothing more than a piece of hot garbage. So I learned my lesson just to use the Gallo instead. The Legion finally decided to teleport to one of the middle sections, so I threw a monkey bomb, broke his armor, and broke that orb like I broke my lower back in the gym 2 months ago when I tried to bench press with dumbbells as heavy as my body weight. And just a couple of business seconds later, the Legion decided to show up again, so I popped my Aether Shroud, broke his armor in seconds, and then I obliterated the orb so hard that it left me feeling like I was Oppenheimer. The best part was that we had a lot of time left on our hands, but what I didn't realize was that the last few minutes we had left was going to be a total fucking chaos. Time was flying by and I tried everything to take him out, but he wouldn't give me a break. What felt like a fight I was destined to win 5 minutes ago quickly became an impossible battle. I was so desperate that I even took out my chopper gunner because I didn't know what the fuck to do. But suddenly I saw an opportunity, so I left the chopper gunner, ran as fast as I could over to the Legion and began spamming the trigger on my Gallo and managed to break his armor. I loaded up a monkey bomb. I began spamming his orb like I owed him money, but then he decided to teleport. And with under 2 minutes left on the timer, I felt hopeless. I needed a miracle now more than ever. But then the unbelievable happened. He teleported to the same section where I failed to take him out the last time. And my past was flashing through my eyes, so I popped my Aether Shroud, broke his armor, reloaded my Gallo, and then it happened. And there you have it. Every Call of Duty Cold War Zombies Easter Egg completed solo for the first time in 2024.